Sangat talks. Sangat talks. Sangat talk.
Our next speaker before we take a break is an accomplished dental surgeon and a professional athlete. She is the first female athlete of Asian origin to represent any national or international sport. It is a privilege to introduce her to the stage. Please welcome Navdeep Dhaliwal.
Hi. Is it morning? Is it good afternoon now? I didn't check the time. Morning. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. This is, it's been the speakers that have gone before me, you will hear a recurring theme. I have nothing new to add. I have nothing different to add. I have exactly the same story and the same values. So you will see that there is no secret to success here or no secret to follow. Actually, Manny said it really, really well when he presented to begin with. So I think you're just going to hear exactly the same recurring theme in what I'm going to share with you today. So, so what am I? Firstly, I was the first female or Asian origin female athlete to represent Britain, Scotland, national, international, back in the 1990s at some point, you know. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to start right at the beginning of time. I'm going to start from my childhood because, yes, I was an international athlete. Yes, I went on to become a dentist. But you'll be surprised at where I started from, and that's the moral in the story. The starting point is not where you think. The success didn't come easy, and in fact, quite the contrary, because where we started from was, maybe the older generation might have some empathy with this. It's that I'm the generation where my parents were first generation immigrants, and so being first generation immigrants, both of them went to work. So when they were both working, there was no childcare. So what they did, and I don't know if they did this in England, but I'm born in Glasgow, and this was quite common in Glasgow, is that I got sent back to India to live with my grandparents. And I actually did not return for 4 years. So I spent from 9 months to 4.5 in India, having a great time, living with Nana Nanaji as the first grandchild, very, very spoilt, wrapped in cotton wool. You know, parents didn't see me for 4 years. So I was not allowed to play. I was not allowed to move. I was not allowed to get hurt. Very, very spoiled. But what that meant was when I came back, when my mother came to bring me back to the UK and I started school, I didn't speak a word of English. And it's a predominantly white community. So you can imagine the bullying I went through, right? And how I dealt with that was that I just didn't speak. I did not speak. I didn't say a word. And so I got put into the class with the how do you call them? With the children with learning disabilities, because they thought that I was mute. They thought I was mute. But one thing they do in India, and they do really well, they teach you how to listen. They teach you to read and write. So my written English, my ABC, my 1, 2, 3, my maths, my homework was always done, but no word was spoken ever. So that was the starting point. The other starting point physically was that I was actually very ill, and we just heard from the gentleman before me, the cardiologist, who will understand that I actually I couldn't walk 100 yards without wheezing. Does anybody know wheezing is a symptom? It's a sign of asthma. So when I went for the test, the hospital test, they said, oh, yeah, she's asthmatic. There's one inhaler, there's a second inhaler. Off you go. She's on inhalers for life. And what happened was I went home, and my dad is a former athlete. Before he immigrated, he was actually university's national champion in discus. And so when he came back, my massive argument with my mother, what is this? My child is in such a state. We have drugs for her for life. I'm not accepting this. I refuse to accept this. This is not acceptable. The inhalers went in the bin. And the next day started day 1 of training. And that training was, and I swear I think my dad had watched Rocky, because the first stage was we drove down, we lived near the country lanes, drop me off, run. I'll be driving behind you. I'll pick you up when you stop. I didn't go very far. I stopped. I just stopped, sort of 50, 80 yards. He put me in the car, and then when he thought I had recovered, he said, "Off you go. Get out the car and go run again." I thought, oh my gosh! And so this was every weekend, 7 a.m. No time to wash my face, no time to brush my teeth. He had those yellow elastic bands to tie my hair. It's like, no, we go. We have to do this. That was a starting point. So we started from ill health. We started at the back of the class educationally. And it's only when school, I think it was parent evening, and my mother went to see the school teacher, and I spoke to my mother in English, that they realized that she can speak. And they said, we've never heard her say a word. And the thing was, as a brown face in a sea of white, and coming from India too, I just thought, wow, what is this? I'm in shock. I don't understand how I'm supposed to relate to them. They don't understand how they're supposed to relate to me. So we didn't relate. We just carried on as we were, in shock. And then I think my parents realized they wanted to change my school, try to give me a better and easier start than the local comprehensive, which was becoming violent now as well. So we moved on. But training started from the country lanes. From the country lanes, we progressed to canals. There were actually really lovely canals, and there are in Birmingham, I think, a lot of canal pathways, and they're split in segments. So it took a couple of years. How old am I? I'm 6 years old, and I'm just learning to walk, jog. By the time I'm 9, this is how long it took. By the time I'm 9, I start to compete in cross-country races. So from 9 to 11, every winter, I competed in cross-country. So there was progression. There was very painful progression. Painful to the point where sacrifices were made. There were still no friends. I was still struggling to fit into life. I still felt that India was my home. I still felt my identity was somewhere else. But we were stuck here, and there were these two people, and they were, intent on making me suffer. That's how I saw it, And but then we started to improve, and from the improvement, you start to, I think, overcome. When you start to overcome obstacles in your path, you start to just sort of have a little bit of faith, and you have a little bit of faith, and then you have a little bit of comfort, and then you start to trust the process. So what happened from 9 to 11 was, we're competing cross country. Oh, okay, we can run a little bit further now. Oh, we've got a community of people. I'm starting to relate to people. Those people were athletes. Those people were the kids that I ran with. So you start to find your tribe. You start to find your home in amongst the challenges that you face. And then what happened was, at 11, I think in secondary school, you start athletics, right? You start track and field. At least you do in Scotland. I think you might do here. And at 11, we started track and field. And my dad, being a former discus thrower, thought, this is fantastic. I'm going to coach her discus. But I'm still the last person. The school have recognized me still as the last person to be an athlete. They're like, no. So my parents had to ask for the opportunity for me to compete for my very first competition. They did not, it did not come. They had to have a meeting with the school teacher, and they said, we know that the school is doing really well athletically. Could you please enter her for the discus as well? And she has been training, and she will do well. Yes. Okay. So here comes the competition. And I'm aware that my parents have asked for this opportunity. This was not given to me. This was asked. And I'm very nervous. I'm very, very nervous, thinking there's a lot to prove here. And the very first competition, I don't know if anybody remembers the discus throw. There's a sector. You have to throw the discus within the sector. Three throws, 3 chances, all 3 outside of the sector. I didn't want to go home. I had 3 no throws. I had 3 no throws for a competition that my father had asked for me to be entered into, and I hadn't even recorded a mark. So I thought, I cannot go home. I cannot, and I go home, but I run off to bed because, we got to go to sleep at 6 p.m. because, can't face my dad, But I didn't get into trouble, which I thought I would. He actually just upped the training a little bit more. And come 12, 13, 14, 15, and this was not planned, but I started to improve. I started to improve beyond what I dreamt that I could ever do. I became British #1, a Scottish record holder, Scottish native record holder, Scottish schools record holder, Scottish schools athlete performance of the championship. And this was not ever a dream. This was not ever thought possible. This was not in the plan, but it happened. And I ran with it. But with that also came the dreams, came the expectation that now I wanted to be an Olympian, because here I was competing at a level where other athletes were training for the Olympics. So I thought, this is great. This is my path. How dentistry falls into it is that what I did know about myself is that we have a strong concept of seva in our community, and in terms of I felt my purpose, it was very clear, is that I'm a healer. I'm a born healer. I know I can put people at ease. I can take care of their pain, and that is what I want to do. So I want to work in medicine. But medicine changed to dentistry because at least I can go home at 5 o'clock and go train. But again, I'm catching up academically. I am catching up academically, but I'm still not there. And what happened was, the year I applied for dental school, it became very popular. It became so popular that the grades that I did have were no longer good enough to get me into dental school. And then by the time I realized that, I'd already taken 6 weeks off the next term to go to my favorite Mamaji's wedding in India, because why wouldn't I? He's my favorite mama. He's the one who brought me up from 0 to 4. So of course I'm going to go do that. And of course I'm going to come back and fail my exams and realize that I still actually have to rely on these to get into dental school now. So we've made a bit of a mess of the situation. And the school, again, bringing my parents to have a meeting with them. And they say, we don't want her to sit the exams. We don't want F grades against our school. We're not going to let this happen. So she has to pick another subject. You have to advise her to change her course of action because she's not capable. That's it. So my parents say, have a word with the headmistress and say, look, just have some faith. Leave it with us. She will be ready for the exams. Just give her a chance. Just give her a chance. And they didn't tell me. They actually did not tell me about this until after my grades came in. But it's a very different system in Scotland. We can go to uni early. We can actually go to uni for medical at 17. So we've now been training from the age of 5 to 17. And the first period in my life of not training was when Glasgow University gave me an offer. And I think I'd failed my prelims. I had an E in the F grade in my prelims in January. So I had February, March, April, half of May to get ready for exams. First time in my life I did not train. For 3.5 months, my parents sat me down and said, okay, you've got 3.5 months. This is the direction. If we don't, what to do your best. And if you don't do it, don't worry about it. It's fine, So, but we did, because as an athlete, I'm used to planning. As an athlete, I know how to have a goal in the next year and work backwards from that goal to know what do I have to do today to achieve that tomorrow. And that's very, very important, because if you have a vision, if you have a dream, it's not going to happen today, but you have to take the steps, the correct steps today to make it happen tomorrow. And that requires a plan of action. Unfortunately, that plan of action worked. It worked very well. I got the grades. I went to dental school. I continued to compete. I continued to train. I worked part-time, which was my dream, so that I could train. I trained twice a day. I continued to compete nationally. And I'm going to really condense this. There's a lot of probably stuff as an adult that you face that the kids will not understand, that business decisions were made. I set up my own dental practice. It did really well. Was not expecting that either. I did not set up to own a dental practice, but I did. And then I went on to buy a dental practice, which, let's say a decision was made that cost me everything. It cost me from being financially solvent to losing everything. So I lost, literally in the space of 6 months, everything. Well, I didn't lose it. I lost enough to know that I could make it back. I had to make it back. But sometimes in life you are going to make decisions that don't pay off. And it's important to, again, stick to the plan. There has to be a plan that gets you out from wherever you are to wherever you want to be. Follow a plan. But there's also an emotional cost. And we are very good at telling our kids to achieve. And achieving is a very physical thing. But we are emotional beings. And we don't always acknowledge that there's an emotional response to decisions that we make. And I did not fully appreciate that emotionally I was as affected as I was by the decision that I had made. And I went training thinking, why is my lower back very, very tight? Only to try to warm up with the squat bar, because it was Monday, it was legs day, and slip 2 discs. So I slipped 2 discs. But yet I was in a financial place where I cannot afford to have time off work because I'm self-employed. So, things happen. And then from slip discs, I didn't give up. You could have said, okay, well, that's the end of the athletics. That's the end of training. That's the end of everything. And I thought, yeah, not quite done. Not quite done. I still have a dream. I still have a desire. And we're not where we want to be. So what do we have to do to put me in where I want to be? Well, one, I have to recover. And I fortunately found the best team around me to help me recover from my injury. It took a year, it took the whole year out of my competing, training, everything. Still had to work, went to work with a weights belt on to lock in the back and carried on working. And now I realize that I'm in deficit, and I think I still have a dream, I still have a desire, and I still have a vision that I don't feel fulfilled. Now people around you will say, that's nonsense, look at where you are. I said, I look at where I am, but I'm responsible for my life. I'm responsible for my dreams. I'm responsible for manifesting my life and going in the direction that I want to go in. And you know what? As long as I'm paying my bills and I'm not relying on you, I think I have the right to listen to my voice, So what I did is I took myself. I've realized now that I'm in deficit. I've realized that I really, really need the best team I can possibly have around me to help support the last remaining leg of my journey. 2 years and I'm done. I went off to Estonia to the European throws conference for coaches, not for athletes, for coaches. And I didn't have a coach at this point because I just finished with one coach, and then I had a slip disc, and I thought I would coach myself, so I needed a coach. And I went to the coaching conference, and I said to myself, listen, what is the cost of coming here and asking the best. Rejection, I can handle that. What if I don't ask the best? I might not get the last 2 years. I might not get the best out of the last 2 years of training. That is something I cannot afford. I'm not willing to afford. That's a loss. But the rejection I can handle. So I better go up there and I better start with the top. And I'm just going to ask until somebody accepts coaching me. I started with the top, but he was a German coach and he's a current world record holder. And I actually happened to know him. But he said, Nav, I work for the federation. I'm not allowed. I'm not allowed to coach any other athlete from any other country. But the current world Olympic champion, his coach is over there. And he is an independent agent. Come over and I'll introduce you. So I went over and I asked this guy, and he's Icelandic, based in Sweden, coaching the Olympic champion who was Estonian, but he had an international team. And he said, what do you want? I said, I need a coach. I've got 2 years left in sport. It's the Commonwealth Games. It's in India. I want to make them. I'm committed. I'm dedicated. I'll do the work, but I need a coach. I need guidance. And he said, well, no girl has ever asked me to coach them because I make women cry. And I said, okay, yeah, but you haven't met my dad. I've been through much worse. So he said, right, I need to know your story. I need to know, and if I say yes, you're going to be the only female athlete on my team, and I need to know it will work. And he said yes. And for 2 years, I trained in the company of the Olympic champion. I trained in the world junior record holder from Egypt. Swedish. We were entirely international teams: Swedish, Danish, Estonian, Egyptian, and myself. And for 2 years, it went well. It went from I think from having slipped discs. My performance went down to, say, 34, 35 meters, to needing 55 meters for the Commonwealth Games and needing to win the Scottish title. So come 2010, I'm actually ranked second in Scotland. There's a girl who's now, we're about the same performance-wise. I'm ranked second. I go, it's a national competition. And it's going to be my last national competition. It's the last Scottish Championships, and my parents are there. You know, my dad is there to represent because obviously coach is international, so he's basically based from Sweden, handing out instructions to all these athletes around the world. And to cut a long story short, we're in second position. So second position is not going to help. Second position is not going to get us anywhere. And it's one round, it's the last round left to throw. And I don't know where it came from, but sometimes, you know, there's moments in life you will feel like a peace come upon you, you know? And it's a very clear sense of you're in the right place at the right time. And very rare does that happen to you, that feeling. But it came before the 6th round. And that 6th round throw won me the competition. So now we're halfway, we've won the competition, we're national champion. But unfortunately, we had to get to 55, and what I got to was 53.5. I threw as far, so that's my best, my 53.5 meters. So we still missed out on the Commonwealth Games. But the moral of the story is, I'm satisfied. It's a life that I've lived, carved by my hands, you know? And there's going to be people that you come across that they have their vision and they have their restrictions and they have their values and they think what's possible and not possible. But when people think what's possible and not possible, it's in accordance with their view of life and their experience of life. And you've got your mind and you've got your life. So a couple of things, of course, it's an incredible amount of discipline and pain. Exactly what Manny said at the very beginning. There's no shortcuts, there's no secrets to that, you know? And mentorship is so important because I wouldn't even have got the Scottish champion at the title or the 53.5 without the right coach at the right time. And you have to, you know, I think what I really want to say that might not have been said before is that if you have a dream, if you do, only you will stand in your way. And most of what it is fear. And fear is made by your own mind. And fear is made by desire to achieve and oh, but what happens if I don't achieve? Well, what happens if you don't even try? You've got to weigh up for yourself the consequences of each, you know? And some people, the cost of failure is emotionally too intense and they will not try. It's fine. But for some people, the thought of not living and not living their life is too much of a too high a cost to pay, and they will actually, you know, push as far as you can push, and you may end up in places that you didn't even dream of. You might end up in a direction you didn't think of, and you might not actually get to the end goal, but you will have peace. You will have peace because you did something, you know, and you did it for yourself. And that's really my moral of the story, I think. Yeah.